Stop it. Oh, yeah.
Matthew,
Yes.
one of the things we're doing this morning, you just joining us, as we're going over our 10-4s for the past, since the past couple of days, I've asked each person that's participating today to share one of their successes in one of their calls or reaching out with a card, whichever way you've done it. If you could share that with us.
Did you see what I typed?
Okay, I didn't, but I do now.
Yeah, I think I'll pass on that today if that's okay. But thank you.
Sure. Okay. So we're going to jump over to, if you're following on the lead generation page, and I'm going to ask you today with the exercise that you're about to do we're not going to take time for you to make 20 minutes worth of calls. I'm not going to do that to you, but I am going to ask you to take 10 minutes and reach out, and the contact that I want you to make is a buyer. If you have met somebody at an open house, or if you have had a lead from a sign call or anything at all, if you can reach out to a buyer. Taylor, I know in your case it will probably be somebody looking to lease, but if you can go to your database, and I want each of you to call a buyer. And I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do this, and then we're going to come back and see how you've made out. You're going to report to me about a buyer, okay? Session
Thank
8.
you.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I'll call it. I'll get the manual up. Thank you.
Okay. Richard, or anybody else who's just joined us online, what the exercise is that they're doing right now is reaching out to a buyer. I want you to have had contact with the buyer this morning, so you have that in your mind as we go through this, how you're going to get houses lined up or properties lined up for them to view.
Morning, Shelley. It's Richard. How are you?
Good morning, Richard. Did you hear what I just said?
I did. I'm messing around with whether I am muted or not. So I've just figured out by me talking to you, I'm therefore not muted. So now I know what to mute myself.
There you go.
All right, time to get on the phone.
One call, just one, and get a buyer in mind, please.
Got it.
That's all I see so far. Okay, I'm just waiting for everybody to come back in. And if you can let me know online if you're back with us and have been able to find a buyer, that would be great. I only have 2 here today, but I think it's going to be like trying to corral ping pong balls to get them back in here. Did you see Lynn? Is she coming back?
I didn't see her. Can we go look for her?
No. I've corralled one. Okay, so is everybody back? Oh, good, Matthew. That's great. Taylor had to bow out. Okay. Wendy, how about you? Did you have any success?
Well, I did speak with somebody who was at an open house recently, and she did mention she was going through a difficult time and such. So she decided that she's just going to spend some time with her sister in Newfoundland, but at least we made contact. I have her, we're texting back and forth and that sort of thing. So, and then I do have a buyer who's interested in a house that has an offer on it, so I just reached out to see how the conditions are being met on that particular house.
Okay.
So those are just the 2 things that I did. However, it certainly gets the ball rolling when you force us to do this.
Very good. Okay, so we're going to move on then. I'm looking at each one of my attendees here in front of me. Did each of you got message?
I got message, but also
Okay.
on Facebook.
They both got messages, but they both did not get answers, but left messages. And I think that's what's important, is that you at least continue to try. And
Yeah, I want to.
sorry, Matthew.
Sorry, can I share something?
Sure.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So I actually have some buyers that I've been working with for a couple of years that live in Halifax but are looking for a property down here on the South Shore. And I just listed a little house in Armdale, and they have a couple kids that have just gotten married. So when I left the message about my, seeing if they still wanted to look for something on the South Shore, I also told them I'd send them my listing just in case they or their kids know anyone that might be interested in a nice starter home. So I kind of did a double whammy.
Very good. Very good. Matthew, you say you're on duty, so you're keeping your mic on. Oh, not keeping his mic on. Sorry. Okay. Hi, Tanya. Welcome. So we're going to jump ahead now to page 11. Get your head in the game. And even though I'm going to read this, we're going to stop and talk and make comments when we get down to the statistics. But the journey from buyer consultation to offer is the most exciting and rewarding part of working with buyers. Finding the right home as quickly as possible is a win for the buyer and a win for you because you can work with as many buyers as possible. Here are some statistics that will help with the home search process. 85% of Canadian home buyers begin their home buying search online. I like to draw your attention to that because I use that information as well in my listing presentation, and I think it's important if you have a lot of presence online that you can use that statistic for where you're going to have their home previewed or shown online. Any other comments from others regarding that? Do you find that you have a lot of experts now because they're looking online? Or they believe they're experts? Nearly half of today's home buyers, 46%, are comprised of Gen X or Gen Y, following closely at 38%. So again, these are young people who are using all the information that they can get online. 86% of buyers considering virtualization of model homes as an important tool, and 89% using online customer reviews to make their home buying decision. I just want to stop there for a minute and see what comments might come from you regarding that. Richard, you do a lot of new construction. Do you have any comments on selling with buyers through new construction? Richard said, okay. I'm assuming that everybody can see each other's chat comments online.
Yeah, I'll unmute myself as well in case people can't hear it. But I mean, the one big thing we find certainly with the new construction world is they've definitely put their hands up, so the buyers are definitely there. They don't walk into a new construction house unless they're fairly serious. The big thing is the conversion world. You've already got the lead. They've walked into the open house, and providing you've got the right skill set into get their email address and their phone number, then it's just a question of consistent and persistent follow-up in terms of, look, we just want to make sure that you're making the right decisions about the right home in the right neighborhood with the right builder. From what I believe, when you came into the open house, we tick all of those boxes. So when can we get together, have a coffee, and talk about building our new dream home?
Very good. Richard, I guess the other part of that, I know from working with builders, having the model home is almost crucial for people who can't visualize just looking at a floor plan. Would you agree with that?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, the one thing we always find is it's great to have those floor plans and the flyers and everything, but in particular in the subdivision that I go to, I make sure I know what home designs that the builder's already built in that neighborhood, because there's nothing worse than going, yeah, what does that magenta look like? And you say, well, actually, 3 doors down, did you notice it on the left-hand side? That was the magenta design. And they're like, oh, okay. Now, they can't go and walk through it, but they can look at the outside of the house and go, yeah, that's the house I want it to look like. That's what I want when people walk up to my front door.
And floor plans can be tweaked when they're custom.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Anything can be tweaked within reason of cost.
That's the key, isn't it? For a dollar amount. Okay. 68% of customers consider walk-in closets as non-negotiable feature in their next home, with an equal number of buyers highlighting energy-efficient appliances as their most important must-have. So I'm going to ask you this. If you had a buyer that had specified that they wanted walk-in closets, would you be looking at showing them a lot of homes in the North End that are 60 years old? I'm getting a lot of no's here in front of me. Nope. Good. You got it. I always find that ironic when I pick up a buyer and they'll say to me they would like to be on the peninsula. They don't necessarily want new because they know that that's near impossible, but this would be one of the features that they would want. So I will point out to them very quickly that if you're looking for that on the peninsula, you're going to lose a bedroom. Someplace in that house you want to have a bedroom that's extra space that you can convert to that walk-in closet you want. But again, these are things with buyers that you start to see what really is a must-have. Okay, health and wellness concerns top the list of community preferences as well, with walking trails, bike paths, parks, and recreation being cited as the most sought-after amenities. Now, comments on this one? Can you think of areas that might be more popular for that type of demographic? I'm going to pick on you again, Janice.
Probably Montebello down by Shuby Park. Where
That would be an
it's,
excellent location.
yeah, Clayton Park, Timberley, Beachville, Lakeside. There's all kinds of walking trails in through there and active community centers.
Very good. Okay, Lynn, you know you're going to get picked on for the next one. While 35% of respondents would prefer a single-family detached two-story home for their next home, surprisingly, the largest item buyers are willing to compromise on to reduce the cost of their next home is the size, 22%. None of the respondents would compromise on quality or high efficiency. So, let's talk a little bit about that. That's if they've got a price point and they're willing to compromise for a smaller home and keep the price point. Can you think of one area over another that might win out? And there's no right answer to this because I haven't got it.
I almost think Timberley is an area where you've got a lot of flexibility in prices. They've got something for everybody, so if you can't find something here and they need to come down, you just move up the street a few without leaving the community would be one area. And probably Sac another too, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of transition in.
Sackville was one that came to my mind as I was reading it, but Timberley I think is an excellent example as well. Any other comments online? Lunenburg. Thank you for that, Matt. Okay. On page 13, and I'll just see if I can go ahead here without, no. Reasonably well. Okay. We can't tell the whole world what Sean just shared, but so on page 13 it says, make it happen, working with buyers. I have something that I'm going to hand out here in class. I'm sorry for those of you who are not here, but what this is a home buyer worksheet that I developed a number of years ago that just is a questionnaire for buyers to fill out. And I think it's as important after you've qualified them, which is what Sean talked about the other day. But if you're really going to have a sense and do this in a time savings way, then these are questions that you need to have established right from the get-go. And on this worksheet, I'll just read it out for those of you who are not with us. It of course has their name and contact information. And the first question is the ideal price, pre-approved amount. And the second is the desired closing date. Of course, area is important. That's the third question. Fourth question, do you have a house to sell? Fifth, desired living space. Six, number of bedrooms required and number of bathrooms required. 7, preferred heating system. 8, new, old, indicate age limit if applicable. 9, preferred house style. And there it's everything from a bungalow, 1.5-story, condo apartment, semi-detached, mini mobile, 2-story, split level, condo townhouse, or other. So they can specify exactly what they might be looking for. the other one, the next part of it says charting your needs and wants. And again, there are always a lot of wants, but you have to establish what is really a need. So fireplace, patio deck, pool, dining room, close to schools, privacy, garage, open concept, natural amenities. Now I'm going to stop there where it's the needs and wants, because there's probably a couple of other things that each of you have run into for buyers that are very specific needs. And I'll give you another example. If they have pets and small children, they may want a fenced yard or a yard large enough that they can have a fence. So again, I'm going to ask you to think for a moment. I'll give you a moment, and then I want you to tell me what you think might be added to that list. For those of you online, if there's something that you missed on the list, then, very good. Municipal services, Wendy. Janice says lake or waterfront. Lynn is reminding us of the walk-in closets and the ensuite baths for all those Gen X and Y. Anyone else? Okay. At the bottom of the page, it says, please use the space below to list any other needs and wants you have with respect to your new home. And it gives a space there for them to put in whether they want specifics to finishes. You know, it may be that they don't want anything but hard surface floors. They may want granite in the kitchen, just some little extra detail there. Again, there's a column that is need specific and there's a column that is want specific. So it gives them an opportunity to state either one. And if you folks online would like a copy of this, just let me know and I will send you a copy once I get back to my laptop. Yes. So now that you have all that information, all the home buyer needs and wants, we're going to find the right homes, and we're going to show only qualified homes, and then we're going to help the buyer come to a decision. So as we talked about before, the buyers are looking on the internet first, so there is no doubt your buyers will be searching the internet for their home. It's your job to help them identify which homes are actually worth the time to see. I'm going to stop there and I'm going to go back to why it's important that we go out and preview homes, especially if we are having agents tours or opportunities through the office or other offices having agent tours, that you're familiar with the homes that are on the market. That can save you so much time in the long run that when it comes time to take a buyer out, it's very easy to shorten their list from the 20 possibilities they're going to send you and say they want to see, and they're coming in for a house hunting tour. They only have 2 days. You really do not want to show 20 properties. If they were all 20 great homes and possibilities, that would be a different story. But if you're familiar with the properties, then you know that's not necessary. So your thorough buyer consultation helped establish exactly what the buyers are looking for in their dream home. Leverage that criteria using online property search sites to find several homes for your buyer to view. What I do as well, it goes on to tell you to set them up on your prospect on Paragon. And so if you do that and they're receiving matches, it says to monitor what they're getting and monitor what they're getting from your KW website and to contact them and follow up with what they've seen. But one of the things that I really liked, and we're going to go on and talk a little bit more about it, is it's suggested that even though they're looking at these things online and they've chosen what they want, that you actually have them, if they're local and physically able, drive by. Drive by and get a sense of the neighborhood and understand, because it might be something that, you know, you think fits their criteria perfectly, but once they do a drive-by and see something close by, it may not be on their list at all.
Something that Something that can help too is if they can't, but they want an idea of the area, if Google Maps has it so that you put the little person down on the map, they can actually do a little drive around. Even though it's probably a couple of years behind, they're still going to give them some value on the area and what's in the area just by driving the streets on the map.
That's right. That's very good. I tend to forget about Google Maps. I know that a lot of people use that, and I find it is very helpful, especially to see. I was showing buyers a couple of months ago lots, and I was able to drive around, see the lots, but he was physically looking on Google Maps at all the other things around it and was able to determine that that wasn't the location for them. So that's very good. Thank you. Okay, continue to check periodically on page 14. Just move ahead here. So continue to check periodically to see what the buyers think of the homes in their search. If no homes meet their criteria, this is very important, you may have to meet with them again to realign their expectations. I bet if I asked for examples on that, you might have a few. Keep your buyers focused on the top 5 of 7 homes you've selected for them to view based on their needs. So it gives a script here. Buyer scripts are not my favorite, but I do love to use this one. And at the bottom of this, if you see, but I have to tell you, the best homes sell right away because they are the best homes. I think that when you're working with first-time home buyers, oh my goodness, that is so key that they understand. First of all, they're looking in a price point that everybody wants, the same sort of thing. It's usually between 200 and 300,000. If it's low 200s or below that, if they're worth having, they're flying off the shelf. Buyer's market or not, they are flying off the shelf if they're worth having. So I think in that script, that is one that I would point out to you and remember that line. If a house is worth having, then other buyers are looking at it the same way that you are, that you don't have time to dilly-dally. The next part of that page just does the suggestion of the drive-by. So after they've qualified and found the homes online, this is, if you're looking at page 14, I would point out the other part of this and say to them when they're calling you about a home that you have to check on MLS to make sure that it's still available. That's another thing that creates urgency, that sets their expectations that they might have to work a little bit quicker on deciding. It says to show you the video later on in this, but I'm actually going to show you the video now. And I want you to pay attention in the video to how he rates or gets them to rate houses with the ones that he's showing them. Oh, no.
Hi, my name is Sean Healy, and today I'm going to teach you how to create buyer urgency through the showing process. And the first step is setting expectations. We tell buyers that it is a seller's market, and what that means is the best homes go fast. The next area that we set expectations in is multiple offers. We tell our buyers there's going to be a lot of other buyers out there, and you may find yourself in a competitive situation. The third area that we set expectations on is condition. Many of the homes that they're going into are going to be move-in ready, but they need a little bit of work. The next step in the process we call the funnel. And essentially we're trying to take the entire MLS and funnel it down so that at the end of the day, there can be only one house that takes out the bottom. What I'd like you to do tonight, pick out the best 10 or 15 homes, and then tomorrow drive by those homes and check them out. I want you to pick out the best 3 or 4, and we'll go out and take a look at those homes. Next part is the actual showing process. We show the first house. You'll ask the buyer, on a scale of 1 to 7, leaving out the 4, 7 being perfect, and there is no perfect home, and 1 being unlivable, where would you rate this home? Inevitably, the buyer will answer it's a 5. And the reason they give you a 5 is because they don't have anything else to compare it to on the very first home that they've gone to see. Then what you want to do is try and reinforce what's making it a 5 for you. Then the next question you asked said, what are some of the things that you would do to move it more towards a 7 if you were to purchase it? You go on to the next house. Now you ask an alternative of choice question. Pretend you had to buy one of these 2 houses today. Which one would it be? The last one we saw or this one? They liked the first one better. Perfect. Go to the third house. The third house, you do the same thing. You say, all right, Gary, pretend there's only 2 homes on the market and you have to buy one today. Which one is it? The first one we saw or this one? And they say, this one. And you repeat that process over and over until you get to the last house. At the end of the day, you say, well, it looks like 123 Main Street was your favorite house. So right there from the house, we call the listing agent, find out if the home is still available. Let's go back to the office and get this property written up before somebody else gets it. My biggest aha out of this came when I was out with one of my first-time buyer families, and we drove up to the first house, and my buyer said, I don't even want to go in that one. What he ended up telling me at the end of that trip was, Sean, what I want you to do is print me out a list of every home that matches my criteria. I'm going to drive by those homes, and I'll tell you which ones I want to see. Aha! Hey, thanks for watching KW Connect, and make it a great day.
So, what did you think of the video? I'm waiting for comments online as well as here in front of me. What were your ahas? Don't everybody type or speak at once. Oh.
Hi, yes, this is Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
I just like the reinforcement of the drive-bys because I do that with my clients, but I didn't realize that it was a recommendation, professionally recommended. I wasn't sure if it was the lazy way out, but I found it always really helpful for doing those drive-bys.
No, I don't consider it a lazy way out. I consider it very time efficient.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I found that, but it was, as I said, my aha moment was, oh, that's actually done by the professionals. Okay, good. I guess I'm on the right track.
Any other ahas? Matthew, yes, it saves everyone time.
I like to rank the houses like as we go. So we start with your first one you go to. Okay, where do you put this? So then we go to the second one. Which one is your preference? And you start putting them in an order right from the get-go. Or if you don't want it take it right off the list. That way you always keep one at the top, and then by the time you're done, usually you've narrowed it down to a couple. And if there isn't anything, well, then at least you can say, what was it about this one that you kept it up here versus these ones that you got rid of, that we can go back and evaluate. So
I really liked his system of the 1 to 7 and taking out number 4 and then, gradually eliminating it down. I thought that was great. How about you, Janice? Did you have an aha there with buyers? I know you're new, so and buyers might not be your favorite yet, but
yeah, I haven't used that 1 to 7. I think you would, for some buyers, I think you would almost have to write it out so it wouldn't be confusing for them. Because, yeah, when he started removing some of the numbers, I think people sometimes have to see it to understand it. And people are typically used to 1 to 10 instead of 1 to 7. So, yeah, it's just kind of helping them understand that process. I love the idea of them driving by, because I think a lot of times if they're seeing things online, they probably already have driven by it. If they've already seen a property that they're really interested in. And then as well, there's no surprises when you drive up, right? You don't have that comment that he had a client say, I don't even want to go in there. Because there can be very much an emotional response when you see something, whether it's the neighborhood or the neighbors or just the exterior of a home.
I'm going to ask Janice to share a little story about a buyer that we took out last spring when she was first learning the ropes. And we had a great time with this buyer, but it's a military relocation, so they only had a couple of days to make a decision on the house. But something very interesting happened, and I'm going to see if she can recall what happened and how it unfolded. Do you remember? I'm putting her on the spot here. Do you remember, we looked at quite a few houses the first day, and what was the very first one we went into?
It was the one that they ended up buying, but they ended up walking away and going, I don't know if this is for us. But then as they compared it to the other homes on the street or in the area, they ended up going back and saying, oh, we love this home. And walking through, doing the renos in their head, and and assigning rooms for the kids, and, as they were walking through. Yeah.
And for me, because I was familiar with them and had dealt with them before, I knew from the get-go that that was the house that they would end up with.
Yeah, Shelley, as we were driving by, Shelley's like, this is the house they're going to end up buying. Before we even went to any other ones.
However, we did have to go through the exercise because of his personality of making sure it was the perfect house. So we all have experiences like that, and of course the more that we've been in the business, the more experiences we have to share. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to share, or another aha from that video, or any other suggestions for us with buyers? I'm sorry, we're laughing because Anne's not here to keep track of me, so right now we're jumping to page 22 for those of you following along. Okay, so we've discussed how we're going to get the buyers, qualify them, pick out the perfect home for them, and now we're jumping ahead to we've actually got the list narrowed down. We're saving time, not only for ourselves but also for our buyers, especially when they're windows of limited opportunity for them to be here and most of us know, especially working with people transferring in, that is a very short window that you have to get a lot accomplished in a week or 10 days. So you're now in the home. We have found and selected choice homes to show. Now we're going to watch and recognize their reactions. So we're going to pay attention to your client's buying signals as you're touring properties. This will give you the leverage you need to help the buyers make a decision. So once you know who is the decision maker in a family, keep the focus on them if possible. So I'm going to ask Lynn here to read the list here of some of the common buying signals.
Number 1, body language and facial expressions. Example, smiling, brightening up. Number 2, asking about a seller's motivations. 3, asking detailed questions such as about the seller's disclosure or taxes. 4, visualizing furniture placement. 5, comparing other houses to it. 6, discussing new paint or carpet. 7, sitting down in the house. 8, becoming protective, not wanting other buyers to see the property. 9, asking for a second showing. And 10, raising objections.
So that's quite an extensive list to consider. Are there anything, or is there anything else that anyone would add to that you might have experienced with a buyer? I always like when they sit down and start placing their own furniture around the rooms.
Or when you can't leave, you've got another showing to go to, but they don't want to leave the house they're at.
So Lynn says when you can't?
Get them to leave because they really like the house, but you have other showings scheduled and you have to go, but they just don't want to go because you know they found their house.
They've become attached. So has anybody else got anything they want to add before you look at the bottom of the page? And it says, you may be surprised by number 10. It is a common misconception that objections such as I don't like means that a buyer is not interested in a property. But objections can actually be strong buying signals. When buyers raise an objection to some feature of the home, it may mean they are imagining themselves in that home. So looking at that list though, I want you to just take a few moments. If you have anything else to share already, that's great. But if you don't, just take 5 minutes right now and write down at least 1 or 2 things that you find are common as far as recognizing that it's a signal that they like the house or like the property. 5 minutes, go. Okay. Has everybody had an opportunity to write something down that might be another signal? I know my students here in front of me have, but I'm not sure about Matthew, Richard, Tanya, Taylor, or Wendy. So maybe if you can just give us some sort of signal. Oh, Wendy, that's an excellent one. That is a very good one. Wendy, wanting to take photos. That is very good. Anyone else online? Yeah. Well, that's a dead giveaway, Richard. Yes, Richard, definitely asking to write an offer. That is a dead giveaway. And it has happened, and it's always interesting when you have, like Lynn has indicated, other houses that lined up for viewings, and they're like, no, stop the bus. We just need to go and write an offer now. That's happened. It's a little bit embarrassing when you have to call agents and tell them that, but but it's a good day. It's a good day. Lynn, how about you? You have quite a few written down there.
Well, one was just something I
Okay.
had talked about, but when you're talking about objections and they bring up that objection, then you say, well, if that's the only problem, we can certainly write that offer and we can deal with that in the negotiations. So there's a way to work around it. That's your own. It's not a problem because we'll find a solution.
Exactly. How about you, Janice?
Well, I was probably thinking in terms of with a young family, like mentioning schools and, oh, this is in such and such a school district and this is where we want our kids to go. Or so talking about the area in the community, also discussing when so-and-so comes to visit, this area would work really well. Like if there's a living space with no stairs. So when mom or mom-in-law comes to visit and they don't have to manage the stairs, those kind of things. So when they're actually inserting their family and family situations outside their immediate family into that home and into that property, then I think it's always a really a good positive.
Yeah, that would be a dead giveaway, and when they're bringing extended family into it as well. Oh, Wendy says, asking to bring family members to come and view, asking if the buyer may accept whatever dollar amount. Yeah, Wendy, that's true that the buyer might be very interested. I've had so many first-time home buyers, though, that you think you have just found them the perfect home, and then they bring dad in. And dad can find anything and everything that would be an objection to his daughter having that property. Anyway, but you're right. If they're coming and they're being positive, then that's a very good point. So before we take a break, I'll just let you know that the next thing we're going on to is the objection part of it. But I'm going to stop here and give you a 10-15 minute break. That gives everybody an opportunity at home to go and get a fresh cup of coffee or whatever it is that you'd like to have right now. So back in 10 minutes. So we're going to get started again, and just I'm really thankful for all of you participating with comments and being a part of it today. I think that the one thing that I know from coming to these and being a part of it even online is that every one of us contributes to one another in some way with a little bit of information we might add or comments we might make. So I just wanted to stop long enough to acknowledge each of you for being a part of this today and participating. Thank you. So now we're going to talk a little bit about objections. So we've shown them the houses, we've looked for the buying signals and all the rest, but one of the things that we really need to talk a little bit about is objections, like how we overcome objections. So we're going to read through each one of these. I'll start with the first one, and then I'm going to let Lynn and Janice have a turn reading each of the other ones. So we love it, but we haven't seen enough properties yet. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, my role as your buyer specialist and reason why we met for a consultation is to sort through the homes that meet your criteria and only show you the best available homes, the cream of the crop. And the best homes on the market go fast, usually in 1, maybe 2 days. If you love this home, chances are someone else does too. Are you willing to lose the perfect home for you? Your wow home, the one you will absolutely love, just so you can see everything out there. Now I know that in our marketplace there are some times when a buyer can take their time to decide on a home. But if you were in a situation where it is a seller's market and the buyer doesn't have time to dilly-dally, and you know that you're going to have to make a decision, help them to make a decision quickly, there are instances when that might happen. Can you think of some locations around Halifax, HRM in particular, or reasons why a home might sell very quickly on a market? Anybody have any comments? What if a house is priced under market value? You think
Nothing's wrong with it. That's why, right?
well, as long as nothing's wrong with it, Lynn says, but we all have instances where there's a distress sale, let's say, and a couple is divorcing, they want to move a house very quickly. Sometimes that house is under market value. If you've shown that property and you recognize the value that is in that property, I think it's our responsibility to point out to a buyer the property is not going to last long. Can you think of any other situation around HRM?
Well, there's some areas that you can say we're in a buyer's market all you want, but there are still certain areas that are definitely a seller's market. Do you want to risk it at the end of the day? Absolutely. Do you want to take the risk? And a lot of times now we find houses have been on the market how long? So if they've been on this long, that means people have already seen all their options. When a new one comes on, there's a lot of people watching it. You need to react quickly, not wait. That is a very good point too. If they already have seen a number of houses, you know what's on the market. You know you have to react quickly. Janice. Can you think of an area that is a seller's market, perhaps, that you might have to react quickly? Think of an area in HRM.
I would say the peninsula. But I think if the house is priced right, I think Beachville, Lakeside, Timberley. Yeah. I think things go very quickly out there if things are priced well, because it's a good price point for a lot of properties.
I agree. I agree with that area, and it is a lot of first-time buyers, so, yeah. Anybody else have anything to add to that objection online? Are you all back with us? Can I see a yay or a nay? Yep. Okay. Thank you, Richard. Okay. Next objection. Leanne.
We really want a formal dining room. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, remember at our first meeting when we talked about there has been no such thing as 100% house? Then it says refer to the 5 must-have sheets. We identified dining room as being the 5 must-haves, as one of the being the 5 must-haves in your new home. Has a formal dining room taken precedence over one of these items? If so, which one? If yes, you will need to begin a new search. Did I read that quite right?
So we identified, and we'll say a main floor family room as being the 5 must-haves in your new home. Then, has the formal dining room taken precedence over one of these items? If so, which one? How would you deal with that objection? Besides Lynn's script, how would anybody else deal with that? No other suggestions?
I guess I would probably want to ask them, how often do they use a formal dining room? What is it? Is it something that they've grown up with and assume that's what they need in a house? Or is it something that they use weekly? If they use it weekly, then it should have been on that 5-point list. Right. But if it's something that they just would use once a year, is it worth throwing away, this home that in every other aspect is the perfect home for them? Is there a room that they'd be able to use, set up tables that they could use that once a year?
Right.
That's probably how I would approach it.
I had an interesting buyer quite a few years back who he was a real foodie. He loved to cook, and I was very concerned about that they did a lot of entertaining, that he liked to cook. They were going to need a formal dining room. So I was showing them homes that were not very big, and a formal dining room in most cases would not be part of that floor plan. And I said to him one day, I said, I'm really concerned about this. And he said, why would you be concerned about that? We don't own a dining room set. This is one more thing we would have to buy. So I was making an assumption because of his cooking skills that he would need a formal dining room. It was not the case at all. And they ended up buying a lovely little home, didn't have a formal dining room, and I asked him, as they were closing, how he was going to deal with all that, and he said, tapas. We're going to be gathered in the living room, and most of our meals will be tapas when we have company. So I thought that's very good. But Janice, you're right. Like, how important is it? You think you want it because you've got grandma's antique dining room set, but you never host a dinner party. Very good. Anyone else have any comments on that one? Okay. Janice. We don't like the carpet, paint color, or landscaping.
Too bad. No, okay. So repaint. Okay. Okay. I hear what you're saying, and this house does offer you a chance to add your own personal touches. Would it be better for you to pay a higher price for the seller to make the changes, or to just redo this one thing yourself to meet your specific needs?
Right. So that, I mean, we've all encountered that something is not the right paint color, flooring needs to be changed, all cosmetic, very easy to adjust. And again, your recommendation might be if they can afford to offer a different price, that it's not full asking, that you're going to have to be offering, then they can make the adjustment to allow for that change that they want to make. So really, none of those are viable objections, right? Now that we go over them. Anybody online have anything else to add before we go carry on? It's too easy. So now we've overcome their objections and we're going to bring our buyers to a decision. So here we are with our funnel and we're going to get them to make an offer. So remember, you are not a tour guide with a lockbox. Your job, once you have helped them find the right house, is to facilitate the decision-making process for your buyers so they can make an offer and get the home they want before someone else does. This is an important milestone in the home buying process. So let's talk a little bit about how, with the things we've already seen, this is almost like a review of the video. How are we going to help them make the decision? How do you think you're going to help them make the decision to make an offer? Go back to the video. I might as well just stand back here.
It's too bad there's not more people in the class.
By rating?
By rating them and getting them to compare with what their must-haves were to what they've seen. And then rating the houses from top to bottom and getting rid of anything that's not in the top 2 or 3 and then focusing on those.
I liked the part in that video where he said, of what you viewed today, between 1 and 2, you know, not the list of 10, but between 1 and 2, if you had to make a decision today, which one would it be? How about you, Lynn? Anything else to add?
No, I was kind of thinking on those lines too. Just, I think by rating them and getting them to a point, too, you've got to look at their energy and their excitement too, because at the end of the day, if that 1 and 2, they weren't even excited about that, you're still going to be looking. But when they're excited, you don't want to give them a whole lot of time. You want to be on it. You even have some comparables for the area, just what's selling right there. Say, show them. Or say, can we meet tomorrow for a coffee? Let's have a look at the comparables. You're kind of on the fence, but yet you want to buy, so let's, we don't want you to lose this house, so let's react now.
I think Lynn's brought up a very important point about the comparables. I use those a lot when I think I have a buyer to the point of being ready to offer. I make sure that I have those with me, that it is such an easy sell when you can show them the comparables and the value that they're getting for that home based upon those. So I think that that's a great service. Richard, remind them of the ranking and make a decision based upon the rankings. Exactly. I really liked his ranking system. So, okay. So we go to the next page, the decision-making process. So each time you show a new property, ask the buyer to rank the property on the scale of 1 to 10 like he did. I like the idea too that he took the number 7 out. And then we're going on the next one. After each showing, ask if they want to purchase that home. If not, find out why not. This is your opportunity to further understand and to reassess the buyer's needs, wants, and values. again, very important, and we're going to talk a little bit about it, having that list with you while you're showing them property of what their needs and wants are. When you finish touring homes, put all the MLS sheets together in their order of ranking. Eliminate all of the top 2 ranking homes. Okay? Take the highest scoring home and ask, so if this one is your favorite, is it going to be your new home? It does meet everything on your checklist, doesn't it? You can validate their choice by adding, I can see why you are excited about it. So again, reaffirm to them the things that were in that house that would make them excited. Take the MLS sheet of the top ranking home, flip it over, and draw a line from top to bottom. On the left side of the line, write pros, and on the other side, write cons. Dig deep with your questions and truly pull out what they like and don't like about the home. This way, your buyers don't feel like you are pushing the home on them, and it helps to isolate objections. I think this is important exercise to do with them, especially that you're being honest in pointing out that it's not all pros. There are some things that are adverse about the house maybe for them, or again, it might be those things, the objections that we've already dealt with as far as decor or cosmetics or something like that. But you're in agreement with them as to what is a pro, what is a con, and you're not doing that hard sell that's maybe scaring them away or turning them off. One of the things that I provide when I'm taking buyers out, besides the listings that I'm going to show them, I will have a little clipboard. And on that clipboard, I'll get a notepad. I buy this stuff at the dollar store. It's not expensive. But I recommend to them, don't just write it on the listing cut. Write things down on this clipboard, notes about each property, that it's going to give you lots of opportunity. One of the, to review once they've gone through the property. Another thing that I've started doing lately is giving them a highlighter. So a pen, a highlighter, and with the highlighter on the listing cut, highlight something that might stand out in the listing, like whether it was a fence yard, whether it had a heat pump that they wanted. But just so that when they go back to that listing cut, besides the notes they've made, they also have this sheet that might have, this sheet had 4 highlight marks on it. This one only had 2. So again, that's a process of elimination for them that, okay, this didn't really have enough of what I wanted. I'm going to stay and focus on this one. Does anybody have packages that they give to buyers when they take them out? Because we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go on, about how you should. Sean is shaking his head. Yes, they do. It's very important. It makes you look like, not only are you a professional, you take it very serious, that this is a major decision for them that you're helping them to make. That it's not just, again, go back to, we're not just a lockbox entry to drive them around, show them property.
It's a very large cha-ching in credibility. Not only are you organized in helping them assist in making the right decision, but passing them that package and then being able to use it, they really recognize that you were working for them.
That's right. Very good. Now, so we talked a little bit about the objections, and we had a few, but now we're going to, if we still don't succeed, here's the sad portion. On page 27, oh dear, so we've invested all this time, we've shown them houses that we feel are perfect, they don't. we haven't been able to bring them to that decision. So what happens next? So if your buyers do not want to make an offer on any of the properties you show, make sure you understand why. I can't point that out enough. Like, do not leave that appointment with them not understanding why. That and the fact that you want to see them again right away, but there's no sense in you setting the next appointment up to say, you know, you're going to schedule the next appointment, but you still are going to go out and make the same mistakes, right? So you really need, if they're not making an offer that day, set up an appointment to meet them again. Never leave the appointment without scheduling the next one and understanding why it didn't work out today. The script there says, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, before we part company, let's get our calendars out and set up our next appointment to look for the home you want to buy. If nothing worth seeing has hit the market by Friday, I will call you and we'll reschedule for next Saturday. So again, though, know and understand why or what happened today. Any comments there? Richard, Wendy, Tanya, we lost. Oh. Okay, the next portion, overcome buyer reluctance. Once you have seen the best homes that meet the buyer's criteria, you may have to help your buyer overcome buyer reluctance. It's a common issue many people experience when they are suddenly faced with the reality of making an offer for one of the greatest financial investments of their lives. Have you had that? Yeah. Your job is not to try and sell your buyers a home that isn't right for them, but it is your job to help them recognize when a home fits their needs, wants, and values. When buyers are sure they like a house but are reluctant to take the next step to make an offer, reassure them that the simple step of making an offer is not as binding as they might think. This is when I go back to when I first meet with a buyer before I am getting them to sign a buyer's contract. Quite often I will show them a sales agreement so they understand the process in making an offer, what the conditions and terms are going to be. Used to be on the old brochure that we use with working with a real estate agent, it stated right on that you were going to be showing them all the forms that they were going to have to sign through the process. So that's where I would point out to them again, you know, making the offer, what is it that you're not comfortable with? There are all these terms and conditions that are going to be your out if necessary or your protection. So if you've already shown them that right at the beginning when you have set up that buyer's listing appointment, then you don't have anything to worry there. Now, if you go to the next page, we've got some scripts again that we're going to take a look at for objections. And I really like these particular scripts because it is, you know, we've had this. What if the price drops? Have you had that? What if the price drops? Why, if I can afford to wait this out, what happens if the price drops? I could have gotten it for less. But if you read through this objection script, maybe I'll let Sean read this one. Oh, he doesn't have his glasses on.
Which one? Of course, the monthly payment, I would have to agree with you. Let me ask you another question. Do interest rates generally go up faster than home prices come down? What do you think? Yes, no doubt about it. In fact, interest rates could rise 1% tomorrow, right? Well, home prices would have to come down 10% to make up for the 1% rise in interest rates. So if you're looking for a $200,000 home, do you think interest rates might go up 1% before home prices come down, $20,000 in your price range? I would definitely agree with you there. So let's do the right thing and make an offer today before interest rates go up.
Now, when I read over that in preparation for today, I thought, wow, that is very interesting, and I have never used that. And I've been doing this for 14 years. Shame on me. Like, that is great information. Like, to, you know, I used to be able to tell buyers when you couldn't get them to sign a counteroffer and you're only apart by, let's say, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, and I would look at it and say, this is what that's going to change your monthly payment by. You're going to lose the house that you want for the sake of $5,000 on a mortgage, you know. But I never really did it this way if there was an objection to the price of the house going down. Any other comments? Yeah. Yeah, I really did. I was like, wow, I got to commit that one to memory. So here's one. Lynn, I'm going to pick on you again. So this one, we want to sleep on it.
You're right. This is a huge decision. However, I have to give you fair warning with as little pressure as possible. If you are ready to write an offer on this home, other buyers may also be ready to write. Being first to write will make a difference in negotiating the best possible price for you. Is there something specific holding you back? How can I assist you with your decision? If they still want to wait, it says, that sounds good. I will call the listing sales representative first thing in the morning to see if the home is still available, and then I'll call you. Do you have any questions on the property I can get answered for you? Do you have any other purchasing concerns I can assist you with?
So they want to sleep on it, but it's a hot property and a good price point. They're first-time home buyers. Have you ever had this happen? They sleep on it and the next day they're in competition. And they not only don't get it for the $2,000 or $3,000 off they were hoping to get off to help them get new appliances in the place, they're now going to pay above and beyond. That's a sad reality. That has happened to me more than a couple of times, and I like to point that out, especially with my first-time buyers who suggest that they want to sleep on it. It's like we talked about earlier. If the property is worth having, they're not going to be the only buyers in to see it that day that recognize it's worth having.
I want to add a thought on this whole thing between what if the price drops and what if we want to sleep on it. Well, one of the things that I would say off the cuff, and it would be very off the cuff, would be the fact that I appreciate you want to sleep on it and let's do that. But would it be okay if I give you a call back and say an hour and a half? I'm going to the office right now and I want to find out what I believe I can negotiate this house to for. It's currently at $299. Let me see what they owe for money. Let me look at days on the market. Let me look at what's happening. And let me put my skill sets to test now because, you know, it doesn't take rocket science to open up a door for somebody, but here's where I go to work for you. Would that be okay if I call you in an hour?
Very good, Sean. That's a very good point. Again, part of the reason why we should have comparables with us as well, but also to add to that, the information that we have. Janice, did you were shaking your head. I wasn't sure. Okay, whether you had something to add to it or not. Very good point, Wendy. Wendy says, I find asking buyers how they feel if another offer comes in. Yeah, let's chat in a couple of hours. And that is very telling when they again, how are they going to feel? So before we go ahead to the next page, any other comments? So this on the next page says we're going to regroup and rethink. If you have shown more than the average number of homes and your buyers have not made an offer, it's time to go back to the drawing board. Yep. I think that you have to look at each buyer on an individual basis and assess them. Sometimes you're going to deal, I'm just going to give an example. Have you ever dealt with family? Like trying to sell family? I know your sister was a jewel to work with because she was very, she knew exactly what she wanted. It was perfect. But I've dealt with family members where they might take 2 years. That doesn't mean I'm showing them houses every week. I very quickly will assess them and draw out exactly the things that I see after a half a dozen homes that are going to be the must-haves for them. So to answer your question, Janice, I wouldn't say that there's any right or wrong amount, but here's what I will tell you. I think if you're taking a buyer out and you're showing them more than 8 homes at a time, you're doing a disservice to them. I think that it becomes too confusing and you haven't narrowed their search down enough. If they say, I want to look at 8 today, I want to look at 8 again tomorrow and 8 again and so on and so forth. If you've had any advance notice with those buyers and you can't narrow that number down beforehand, then we really haven't qualified them or we haven't really gotten to know the whys of what they want. And I think that was in a previous lesson, going to the why of what they want. So that's where you might have to go back to the drawing board. But again, I wouldn't recommend any more than 8 at one given time. Now I'm going to turn around and I'm going to ask Wendy, because Wendy's been in the business a while, if Wendy has a number that she would like to share as to what her limit would be at any one time out with a buyer. Six. Yeah. That's very good, Wendy. I think my 8 is a stretch because they start to shut down and get blurry-eyed after 5 or so. So I agree. Richard, do you have a number that you limit them to at any one outing? Depends on the situation. Okay. Do you not think, though, that if you show them too many, that they tend to become confused?
Hello there, this is Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
I recently had buyers out, and it's not exactly the same thing. We met for 4 nights in a row with regarding new construction. They were the ideal, perfect buyers. And I could see at the last night, because they were making comments that, oh, I've got to work in the morning, those kind of comments, I wore them out. It was certainly a lesson. It was certainly a lesson learned.
Yes.
That less is more.
Yes. Yeah.
Let buyers digest some of the information and go a little bit more at their pace and read their cues.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. Very good. Okay, Richard. that's a very good point. A buyer's pack. And yes, spread it out over more days. If that's possible, that's what I like to do. But again, I would point out to you, if we're really doing our job in listening to their wants and needs and why they have those wants and needs, it's easier for us to narrow the list down. Right. Oh, Sean?
What I'm about to say by no means was I always there. But you know, I mean, with the exception of a buyer's trip, one of the things that I do when I show properties is it's all about time blocking. You're operating a business, you have a buyer, you got sellers, you got this, you got that, and don't forget you have a family. So what I do is show 4 properties, no more, because I basically want to time block out. The other thing you got to keep in mind too is like that disc profile. What's the personality of the people you're dealing with? You know, are they calculated people, or is, you know, 3 or 4 going to be enough for them, right? But for me, it's 4 so that I can get back at doing other things that were within the business of the other people you're serving and still have some time for your family. Because I think really when you think about all that, you got to have a good balance and you got to time block.
Very good. Just going back to what Wendy said, her comment about them being kind of tired or played out, I would point out that you're adding to their confusion. Like that's the reality of too many, like showing too many houses. So again, just get back to that understanding the needs and wants. My daughter used to work with me, and she always used to say, Mom, there's a reason why we have 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen, 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 and understand what it is they really want. Don't add your comment, don't judge, don't whatever. So I just give you that analogy as well. 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen. So when you have to go back to the drawing board, own it. Whatever the issue was, now it's your time to rectify the situation. Sit down with your buyers back at the office and review your needs analysis. Perhaps there were things you did not uncover the first time, the whys of why they wanted a certain feature and what the benefit was going to be to their family. Get on the MLS together and refine your search. When a new set of homes comes up, make appointments to see them immediately. If nothing comes up, it is best to get to the bottom line quickly and move on if you are not going to get the results you are after. So now it gives you some examples. Get to the bottom line with your buyers. Now I'm just going to tell you before we go through those, I'm taking number 3 completely off, okay? So we're not even, that's not even a reality for us. If you have qualified this buyer from the beginning, then number 3 should not be your objection. You have a qualified buyer that is ready to go, and you know that they're serious, that it's worth spending time with them. If this is the case, you've probably caught on right from the beginning, and you're not showing them property yet. You are just sending them listings, okay? So I like this one. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, what you are looking for doesn't exist. So we have to make a decision. 1, you can step into a higher price point. How many of us have used that? Anyone? Had to move a buyer up to a higher price point if they are pre-qualified and can do so? Sean's shaking his head yes. Yeah, I love when I take buyers out and they want the world and they want it perfect and they do not have a reality check of what the dollar amount is they're willing to spend is not going to get them anywhere close to that. So it may be that they have to adjust their price point, and it might not be outlandishly high. It might be very easy thing to do, especially if they're pre-qualified for a higher price point than what they're saying they want to pay. I know that that's a slippery slope for us because, you know, I don't want young people to be mortgage poor, and I don't want them to go to the highest level maybe that a bank's offering to give them, but at the same time I do want them to be happy with what their purchase is and to be able to grow into it. So, or number two, you can adjust your expectations. So how do you gently rein them in and make them realize that they might have to compromise? Anybody have any suggestions on how that works?
You could just have their checklist, and can we just review these again? I want to make sure I'm clear I'm not missing something. Or was there something new you noticed when we were looking at another home that maybe you want to switch it up a little bit?
Remember the objection to the dining room, Lynn, that they really didn't need because they were never going to have a dinner party. Right? So again, are most of you in agreement with me that we should not have number 3 even on that list? If they've been qualified? Yeah. That's what I said. Okay. So if they are willing to adjust their expectations, we do a new search, and if not, we recategorize them as a low priority and stop devoting your showing time to them. But as I said before, I would take that one completely off the list. I just don't think that it's applicable.
I'm just thinking out loud. If you were ever to say that question on number 3, towards the what happens, whatever, there's got to be a comma and say, you know, remember, you're going to be looking at 2 or 3% more money next year just on the property of itself that you're purchasing.
Yeah, when I meet with people and they are at a stage where they are uncertain, and trust me, when I meet with them, we're not out looking at homes, but if I meet with them and they are saying that they're not ready to buy, I point out to them, even then, like, I can send you listings, but chances are in a year's time, 1, they're not still going to be available, and 2, I have no guarantee of where the market is. You know, it can be anywhere. Chances are it's probably going to be up, but I have no prediction. I don't have a glass ball that I can tell you what's going on. So, you know, that's when it is really, even sending them listings, it gives them a feel for what's available maybe in an area. If they're looking specifically to a certain area, certain district, so on, so they know that it's only going to be 40, 50-year-old houses that are going to come on the market there. They're not going to see new construction. But, you know, as far as that house that you looked at 12 months ago being on the market when you're ready to buy in a year's time, not likely. Not likely. Okay, we're moving right along. I love this checklist. So on page 31, customer experience focus. So a little ways back I mentioned about giving them a clipboard, notepad, all that, but so customer experience focus. Keep your buyers focused on their objection, finding a home that most closely matches their needs and wants, and then making an offer on it as quickly so that it can become theirs. Be proactive when it comes to communicating as you both try to find the home on the internet. Establish how they like to keep in touch. Is it by email, phone calls, or text messages? Talk to them about how often You will be in touch. Is it every time a new home comes on the market, plus a weekly communication to check in? Whatever you establish, stick to it. I just want to stop there for a minute because I'm very guilty of being remiss in establishing a time frame that I'm going to be in contact with buyers. Very good at having it in my schedule for my listings and, you know, giving them a bi-weekly update or a weekly update or whatever. But with buyers, I tend to forget that that's every bit as important for us to be in touch with them. You know, we have lots of tools at our access with 33 touch, 8 touch, whatever the case might be. But so many times we don't do this. Now, if I'm the only one that's guilty, so be it. Reprimand me. But is anybody else perfect in their timing of doing that? What? Really? Oh, thanks, Richard. I appreciate your honesty. Yeah. And Wendy, I'm just seeing the comment on the new construction. Yeah, next time when I build, I can't tell you how many homes I've owned now that every time I go to move again, I say next time. So, okay, so on this page, going to this, if you look at the chart, the checklist, I love this. Also, you will be spending a lot of time with your buyers, so bring plenty of resources to cover any eventuality and make the experience as comfortable as possible. So, Janice is laughing, and I'm sure I know what she's laughing about. Is this? No. No. Oh, okay.
Looking at the first aid kit, thinking, wow, this is really dangerous.
Well, you know, here's what I liked about this list, and we can laugh at it all we want, but again, you know, when you get a new vehicle, this is how your mind starts to think that you got to get a little bit more organized, and that's where I'm at right now because I just got a new vehicle, so I don't want signs flying around the back or my open house signs scratching the back. And so I've decided, once again, I'm going back to the good practices I had when I first started selling real estate, and I was very organized, and I had a nice little plastic box or file container in the back and kept everything that you could possibly need. So I'm looking at this list the other day and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I have to add to my box. Like, I don't have paper goods, I don't have tissues and toilet paper, but hey, if you're out showing properties and somebody has on their 5th or 6th house and it's time to void, and you're in a vacant house that doesn't have any paper but the water's turned on, what are you going to do? So I thought that was a great idea. Anyway, I'm laughing about it, but if you look at this list, can you see where having a box in your car at all times would be helpful in being prepared for showings where you're comfortable and your buyers are comfortable and all the rest? Can everybody see the list that's online? Okay. Is there anything else that you think you might add to the list? Yeah, Richard, no, rubber boots. Richard, when I used to deal a lot in new construction, I actually had steel-toed boots in my car. Now, the interesting thing was you know, the vanity didn't get the better part of me. I would put the steel-toed boots on, but I never carried a hard hat. That was bad. That was bad. I would have been more apt to go into something that was only partially framed and have somebody drop something on my head than I would have been to step on something, right? Because I'm looking down where I'm stepping. But yeah, vanity. Right. I've had a few flat tires as well, Richard. I know exactly what you are talking about. Yeah, yeah. So getting back to the list, Richard, are you looking at the list? We all carry a spare. We all have spare tires. But back to the list. Is there anything else that you can think of that might be added to that list? I really like the flashlight. I know we all have lights on our on our phones now, but years ago I always carried a little flashlight. Again, you can get a little flashlight at the dollar store. You're always going to go into some place that you know, in a basement that a gentleman wants to see something in an electrical panel or somewhere where there's no light. You're fishing around for. So flashlight, I've had great success with carrying that. I'm not sure about this other than when you're ready to write the offer. Like, I don't think you're going to settle kids down in the house to start coloring or anything while their mom and dad are looking at the house.
I don't like. One thing I don't like about the crayons is if some parents and some kids go off and do their thing, what if a crayon gets the wall? So like for even open houses, I might have something like that set up a table for an open house, but for showing a house, I might have, like, I've got little things like little dinky cars or trucks for like little kids, or you can have some Play-Doh and they can at least walk around with that in their hands. Preferably if there's carpet, you don't use Play-Doh, because if it got in the carpet, you've got a problem. But just things that are kid-friendly, or like some little dolls for girls, something they can carry around, or little stuffed toys or something, right, that they can even have, sort of the reward for being good while mom and dad look at houses, you know.
That's a very good point. When I read the list, I thought that's great for when you get to the point where you're making an offer and the kids might need some entertainment, but I don't think that it's appropriate to give them crayons while you're in the house. I like the idea of the dinky cars. Not so sure about the Play-Doh.
The Play-Doh is only good. I guess that's more if they're sitting down talking to parents and you're just having a conversation. They could be sitting at a table with it or whatever, but it's something any age can kind of play with that. So
I'm just thinking outside the box here right now too, but I'm thinking, do we have anything like that in the office, kind of designated for children when we bring people to a closing room? Might be a good idea to make that suggestion, eh? Yeah. Janice.
Yeah, I don't know that I would trust kids that I don't know with crayons in a property that's not my own. I think it's got great potential to explode. Yeah, so, you know, little things like Littlest Pet Shops for the little girls, or, you know, things that you can buy at the dollar store, the teddy bears with the big eyes, or you know, hacky sacks, right?
Stickers are fun too.
Yes,
I find
stickers.
girls
Yeah.
love stickers.
Yeah. Yeah, little things that they can put in their hands and play with. That's what occupies the kids.
Troy, did you have anything to add?
I think that's mainly for traveling in between home. I don't know if that's necessarily would you bring the kids in to color in the house? I mean, and usually if kids are coming along for the ride, I always instruct the parents just to put them on a leash while we go in the house.
How does that go over? do you pull a leash out?
No complaints yet.
Oh dear. Okay, so I'm going to tell you another funny story. Do not leave the key to the house or the lockbox unattended. If you have small children with you in tow viewing houses, make sure those are put up or in your pocket. That can be a disaster. Okay, did anyone else have anything? Wendy? Yes, Very good ideas. The dollar store stickers. So I think we're getting lots of great ideas to definitely make it a good experience both for ourselves and our buyers. Would you agree? Water, quality tissue, couple cents. Which one? Give the children my business card, as they tend to appreciate being included. Yeah. And the dollar store stickers. I like that. Okay. So, putting it all together. So now we're ready to go, and you know all the things that you have to do to enjoy the experience of showing property to your buyers and not overwhelming them with viewing a lot of houses that is unnecessary. So for your next class, I'm just going to remind you to complete your daily 10-4 and continue to preview and visit homes. Practice your buyer scripts and objection handlers. I would say to really concentrate on those objections, that you will know what you have to, what you might have to overcome. So guys online, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for us today here in class. The only other thing I have to pass out are the mission homework assignments for the next day. But and that is Friday, 9 to 12. And I believe Sean's going to be your leader then again. So thank you again very much for participating today. Appreciate all the comments and what we've been able to learn from one another. Also, a big reminder to everyone, Red Day tomorrow. Okay? If you haven't already gotten a t-shirt to participate, Erin has them. And if you forget even before you leave the office today, she will have them tomorrow morning, I'm sure, when we all get there. So bright and early tomorrow morning, I'll see some of you, and I will probably be there all day. So again, thank you very much, guys. It's been a blast. And if there is anything that I've shared today that you want to have, I've got Wendy and Matthew down to send my home buyer worksheet to. If there's anything else, don't hesitate to let me know. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.